What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic, ducking champ Errol Spence had successfully ducked the fight with Terrence Crawford. Let's chop it up and see what it's all about. Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing. So it looks like Errol Spence has been successful in basically ducking the fight with Terrence Crawford. Okay, so we're gonna wait and see if some people are gonna come into the chat, and then we're gonna talk more about this fight. That Errol Spence has been ducking now for the past 3 years. I mean, it's been a good long time. Terrence Crawford has been calling out Errol Spence now for the past, I guess you could say it's been 3 years. Okay, and he has done everything that he could to basically get Errol Spence in the ring with him. However, it looks like Errol Spence is totally unwilling to do that, and he has come up with a myriad of excuses as to why this fight is not going to happen, or conditions that he's putting forward before he will make this fight happen. Naturally, a lot of his fans, and fanboys in the LDBC has been riding with him in terms of his ducking of the fight, basically co-signing his excuses. Okay, I mean, there's so many of them by now that it's hard to keep count. I mean, he comes up with a new one almost every day. So, like I said, Spence comes up with a new excuse not to get into the ring with Terrence Crawford almost every day. It's almost daily. Remember the first excuse was that it's a different side of the street. Okay, then the next excuse after that was Terrence Crawford don't sell. Then, after that, he's the pay-per-view star. Errol Spence is the pay-per-view star. And now, the latest excuse is that 60-40. Crawford should take 60-40 for the fight to happen, or 70-30, or whatever Errol Spence decides to give him. So we can see it's been a progression of, excuse after excuse after excuse, basically. And, that's basically, has been the situation when it comes to this fight. I mean, this is a big fight. A lot of people want to see this fight. A lot of fans want to see it. The casual fans, boxing, a lot of people in the boxing community, they would love to see this fight. But unfortunately, for, boxing aficionados and, fans as well, casual fans, even, decafs, we're more likely not going to get this fight because Terrence Crawford has just recently come out and said that in an interview with FightHype.com, I said that he's not going to call for this fight any longer. Okay, he said that he's been calling for this fight, and he's not going to do it anymore. He's not going to call for the Errol Spence fight any longer. He's done. He's done calling for that fight. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't really blame Terrence Crawford. I mean, ever since he came up to 147 pounds from 140 pounds, from being undisputed at 140, he has been getting nothing but, ducking excuses, not just from Errol Spence, but also from Keith Thurman when he first came up. Keith Thurman said that he was barely a champion when someone asked him about fighting Terrence Crawford. As a matter of fact, in that interview, they were actually talking about Errol Spence. They were asking Keith Thurman if he was willing to fight Errol Spence. And at that point, Keith Thurman said, that he was just coming off another layoff, one of his many layoffs that he has had over the years, and he said that he wasn't going to come off of a layoff, fight a tune-up, and then fight the number 2 guy, because as far as he was concerned, Errol Spence was the number 2 guy at that point. At that point, Keith Thurman had both belts, I believe. He was unified champ, WBA, WBC belt at the time. And he claimed that he wasn't going to come off of a layoff, fight a tune-up, and then fight the number 2 guy. He said that's just not going to happen. This is what he had said at that point in time. And then a little bit later in that interview, they asked him what about Terrence Crawford? And he said, Terrence Crawford, well, I'm sorry to say it, but he's barely a champion. And as far as that Australian guy, he was talking about Jeff Horn, the guy that Terrence Crawford beat to become welterweight champ, WBO champ. He claimed that he would beat Jeff Horn with one hand tied behind his back. So, again, Terrence Crawford came to welterweight. He called out Keith Thurman. He called out Errol Spence, and they both ducked him. And as you all know, Errol Spence is still ducking him. Terrence Crawford, not Terrence Crawford, but Keith Thurman has lost, both of his belts. I think he was stripped of one, and then the other one was taken by 8th division world champion Manny Pacquiao, where he dropped Keith Thurman in that fight and took his belt from him. So right now we see Keith Thurman out there, basically begging for fights, looking around trying to get a fight right now, and now, he's been off. He has been laid off even longer than it was back in that day when they asked him about the Terrence Crawford, and about Errol Spence. Remember, he had said that, as I said, Keith Thurman had said he wasn't going to come off of a layoff, and this was a couple of years ago. He said, I'm not going to come off of a layoff, fight a tune-up, and then fight the number 2 guy in the world, which he was talking about Errol Spence at the time. And in that same interview, he said that Terrence Crawford was barely a champion. Now, this Keith Thurman been on an even longer layoff, but now he's ready to come off of his layoff and jump right in there against Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford. Okay, so we see the hypocrisy there. Okay, before when he had the belts, he wasn't ready to do, to fight a tune-up and then fight the number 2 guy. But now he's ready to fight the number 1 and the number 2 guy without a tune-up and coming off of a longer layoff. So this is the kind of hypocrisy that we're seeing in the welterweight division. Okay, these guys, don't want to fight each other. They are ducking. Okay, first it was Keith Thurman. He was the biggest ducker in the welterweight division. He ducked Terrence Crawford. He ducked Errol Spence. Okay, and now after Keith Thurman ducked both Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, now we have, and he ended up losing his belt. Now we have Errol Spence taking the place of Keith Thurman, and now he's the biggest ducker in the welterweight division. And now he's here, he's still ducking Terrence Crawford after all these years. Now, I'm gonna call it like I see it. A lot of people are not gonna say that. They're not gonna say that Errol Spence is the ducker. Okay, they're not gonna say that Errol Spence is doing the same thing that Keith Thurman was doing. But that's exactly what he's doing, making up all these excuses, as to why the fight won't happen. All this talk about 60-40, all his fans and the fanboys, have latched on to this 60-40 thing. Oh, why won't Terrell Crawford take 60-40? He should take 60-40. Because that's what they're latching on to. Before that, it was, other side of the street. Oh, that other side of the street. He has to leave Top Rank so he can get the fight with Errol Spence. You got to leave. Why is he still with Top Rank? Why did he re-sign with Top Rank? That was the excuse back then. Now, it's 60-40. Well, why won't he take 60-40? Why won't he take 60-40? And then before that, it was, Terrence Crawford is not selling. His record is no good. He doesn't have a record. Who was he fought? Why should he deserve a fight with Errol Spence? So, all of these, ridiculous excuses, and you actually have fans, okay, and so-called commentators, especially these LDBC guys out there, riding with all of these silly, ridiculous excuses Okay, and I mean, it's embarrassing at this point in time. I mean, it's crazy. So these guys, are out there riding with Errol Spence and all these excuses that he's making, and that's basically that's what it is. Okay, now, when these guys out there, these commentators, these YTBC, these LDBC guys out there, these fanboys, okay, they have no problem with calling Canelo a ducker because they claim he's ducking Jamal Charlo. Okay, even though Jamal Charlo is ducking Andrade, he's ducking Benavidez. I mean, it's just it's duck season. I mean, that's basically what's going on right now. So they don't have a problem calling Canelo a ducker. They don't have a problem calling any other fighter a ducker. But for some reason, they don't want to call Errol Spence a ducker. But unfortunately, that's exactly what he is. He's ducking. Okay, and if it acts like a duck, it quacks like a duck. It's a duck. And Errol Spence, has webbed feet and hands. Okay, he's ducked. And he's been ducking and ducking and ducking and doing everything in his power to duck Terrence Crawford. And, I'm going to call it like I see it. I don't care what these people out there thinking or saying. If he's a duck, he's a duck. If it was Terrence Crawford ducking, I would be calling him a duck as well. Okay? And that's just the way I keep it. I keep it 100. Okay? I'm not a fanboy of no fighter. Okay? Especially a ducking fighter, a fighter that keeps ducking. Okay? I mean, it's embarrassing. Terrence Crawford ran up on Errol Spence. He ran up on Errol Spence, okay, and told Errol Spence to his face, okay, I'm going to knock you out, okay. He said that, why you want Keith Thurman, I come up, you told me to go get a belt, I went and got the belt. Now you want to go this way, Thurman want to go that way, what's going on? And, Errol Spence said, oh, why don't I take the easy route against Sean Porter? I'm sure you guys have seen that clip, many times. Okay. A lot of people have been using that clip after I used it. Okay. It is what it is. Okay. He ran up on Errol Spence, grabbed him by the stomach, called him fat. Okay. And told him, what's going on? Let's get it on. Errol Spence sat there and, ran off a list of fights that he was going to have. He was going to fight Danny Garcia. He was going to fight Ugas. He was going to fight maybe Keith Thurman, maybe Mikey Garcia. And then Terrence Crawford said to him, my name is on that list. And he said, no, your name is on that list. So we see the agenda. Okay. Errol Spence never had any intention of fighting Terrence Crawford under no circumstances. And you can know this is a fact by the way you see. I mean, even his trainer, Derek James, comes out and try to make excuses as to why the fight should not happen. Okay. You have people on YouTube, okay, commentators, so-called boxing fans who are supposed to be trying to get these fights to come to fruition, making excuses why the fight shouldn't happen. I saw a fan of boxing one time. He did a live stream. That at that time, that's when Crawford had said that the crash must have knocked a screw loose out of Errol Spence's head when that's the reason he's talking about 60-40. I mean, this guy, fan of boxing, actually came on and cried. And I'm not exaggerating, people. I mean, if you go and look at the video, he actually cried tears, okay, on this live stream, talking about how Terrence Crawford is disrespecting Errol Spence, and the fight should never happen. He should never fight Errol Spence. I mean, he should never fight Terrence Crawford. This is a commentator. This is fan of boxing on his channel, crying, literally shedding tears as to why Errol Spence should never fight Terrence Crawford. This is the kind of environment that we're living in right now in boxing. And this is the kind of license these guys are giving Errol Spence to duck fights. We see Blue Blood Sports, the same thing, okay? I mean, this guy's head is so far up Errol Spence's ass, he have to pull Errol Spence's shorts down to see where he's going. I mean, the guy is ridiculous with his excuses, Errol Spence should take, Crawford should take to the 40. Errol Spence is the star. He's the star. He's the star. I mean, what the hell does that have to do with anything? I mean, at the end of the day, if Terrence Crawford hasn't fought anybody, if he's, not, he doesn't have a good record, if he's not this or he's not that, well, take the fight then if it's so easy. It should be an easy fight for Errol Spence. Take the fight. I mean, if I thought a guy wasn't fighting anybody, he didn't have anybody, who was Terrence Crawford fought that could beat Adrian Broner. That was his latest comment from Blue Blood Sport. I mean, what the hell is this guy talking about? What does Adrian Broner have to do with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford fighting? What are you talking about? And the next thing that these guys are doing, they're pushing other people in front of Terrence Crawford to fight. Oh, he got to fight Sean Porter. Oh, he got to fight this guy. He has to fight that guy before he can fight Errol Spence. Why does he have to do that? What belt does Sean Porter have? Terrence Crawford is about unifying and becoming undisputed at 147, just like he did at 140. He wants to fight the champions, the people with the belts. Okay? So this is the first time that I've ever seen where a fighter who wants to fight the best, and they claim that Errol Spence is the best, he's calling out the best and he's getting criticized for calling out the best. Okay? How does a fighter get criticized for wanting to fight the best in his division? Okay, if you consider Errol Spence to be the best, why are they criticizing Crawford for trying to call out the best and then trying to get him to fight somebody who the best has already beaten? Okay, Errol Spence already beat Terrence Crawford. I mean, not Terrence Crawford, Sean Porter. Okay, so why wouldn't you want Crawford to fight the best? Why you want him to fight the third or the fourth or the fifth best? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, this is crazy. We're in a crazy time in boxing right now. I mean, I've been watching boxing for a long time, and I've never in my life seen as much ducking as I've seen now, especially in the welterweight division. But just overall in boxing, period. I mean, the amount of ducking that we see going on is an epidemic of ducking. Okay, everybody is ducking everybody. Okay, and these guys are doing this ducking without no shame whatsoever in their game. I mean, they just openly just duck. Okay, we see the same thing going on with Charlo. I think Jamal Charlo is a great fighter. I never really did a video about him. But now, with all this talk about vaccination and age limit, I mean, where does all that come from? Where do these guys come up with all these excuses not to fight another fighter? Okay, you called out Benavidez. Benavidez accepted your call out, and now you're making up excuses about you're not going to fight anybody, under 25, and you're not going to fight nobody unless they have a vaccination. So I guarantee you, I don't think Canelo got a vaccination, but you want to fight Canelo. Now I hear him saying that he's not going to fight. He's at 160. He's not going to fight. He's not a 168-pound fighter. But you're calling out Canelo. And Canelo is at 168 pounds, okay? But you don't want to fight Benavidez at 168 pounds. Now, if he had came out and said, okay, listen, I don't want to fight Benavidez because Benavidez don't have a belt. That makes sense to me, okay? Okay, that would make sense. That would, okay, Benavidez doesn't have a belt and you're looking for a belt. You're trying to, become, you want to move up and fight the guy with the belt, which would be Canelo or somebody else. But that's not what he's saying, okay? He's saying that, I don't want to fight nobody under 25. I don't want to fight nobody unless they're vaccinated. And I'm not. By the way, I'm not at 168. But every day you out there have Canelo's name in your mouth, and Canelo is at 168 pounds. But you don't have no problem fighting Canelo at 168. But you don't want to fight David Benavidez at 168. After you talked about him, you had his name in your mouth. Okay. Now when he called your bluff. That's it. You make up some excuses. So I mean, at the end of the day, man, these guys are making a mockery of boxing. Okay, starting off with Errol Spence, he's the lead ducker of this generation, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, and it's a disgrace, really, when it really comes down to it. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of his fans are riding with that stuff. And a lot of these commentators, out there. riding with this stuff. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on. These guys are getting paid to say all this nonsense that they're talking, like the Blue Bloods post defend them, but they must be getting paid because, I mean, why else would you come out and say the things that they're saying? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you not want the biggest fight in the history of both Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence to happen? Why would people want to be against that fight happening? I mean, at the end of the day, Errol Spence is telling Terrence Crawford, I mean, 60-40. Okay, let's look at that for a second. Did he say that with Mikey Garcia? Did he say that with Sean Porter? Did he say that with Algieri? Did he say that with Bundu? Ocampo? Did he negotiate in the media with any of those fighters? Did you hear him say to any of those fighters that he fought before Terrence Crawford that he wants this or that and they got to take this or that? Did he negotiate in the media? Because that's what he's doing with Terrence Crawford, negotiate in the media. Did anyone hear Errol Spence say anything about numbers of any of the fights he has fought so far, except for this one with Terrence Crawford? Then you got to ask yourself, well, what's different about Terrence Crawford that he would come out and say these things in the media? Why didn't he negotiate in private with Terrence Crawford like he did everybody else? And the answer is simple. Like they say, the quickest way to, not to make a fight is to negotiate the fight in the media. And this is what we see going on. And so my, only conclusion is that he doesn't want to fight with Terrence Crawford. And everything that we've seen so far, has basically, confirmed that, okay? He doesn't want this fight. And the only way that he's going to get in that ring with Terrence Crawford is if people drag him into the ring, okay? I mean, now, I've heard, that the PBC wants to fight, okay? They want this fight with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. And why do they want to fight? Because there's not really much going on in boxing right now with the pandemic and everything that's going on. That's a big money fight. And, Errol Spence is going to make more money than he's ever made in any fight that he's made so far. And can he do that amount of business with another fighter in the welterweight division? No. Who else can he do that kind of business with? The kind of business that he's going to do with Terrence Crawford, he couldn't do with Mikey Garcia. He couldn't do with Danny Garcia. He couldn't do with Sean Porter. So this fight with Terrence Crawford would be his biggest money-making fight. So you're telling me that the guy that's going to bring you your biggest payday in boxing so far, which is probably the biggest fight of, except for the AJ fight, Fury fight, it might be second to that fight. The biggest fight, the guy that's going to bring you your biggest payday, you want him to take 40%. And you get 60. And he's the guy that's going to bring you your biggest payday. A payday you cannot get with any other fighter that you have fought so far or that any other fighter that's out there. But you want this guy that's going to bring you your biggest payday, the guy that's bringing you your biggest check, the guy that's going to put more money in your pocket than any other fighter. You want him to take a 60-40 split. But you didn't say that about anybody else. And you didn't come out in the media and say that about anybody else. So, I mean, whatever conclusion can we draw from all of that? Okay, I mean, it's just logics, okay? It's not rocket science, it's common sense. Obviously, he doesn't want to fight, okay? And that's all there is to it, okay? And, it is what it is. So, I don't really blame Terrence Crawford for getting, fed up with all this foolishness, okay? Because at the end of the day, that's what it is, okay? It's foolishness. It's silliness, okay? And, all these people out there riding with this foolishness, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, the fact that they, would go along with something like that is, ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And, but unfortunately, this is what we see, Let's see a good light lit up, good commentary, a lot of truth here. Okay. Yeah, thanks for saying that, light lit up. Diallo Hughie, ducked. Yeah, well, yeah, so, a lot of ducking going on, people. I mean, it's like I said, it's an epidemic of duck season in the welterweight division, and we're not really getting the fights that we really want to see. All right. Let's look at what's going on with this Ugas situation. Now that Ugas got the belt, and Manny Pacquiao has been stripped. Errol Spence, not even an hour after the announcement was made that Ugas had the belt now, he's been raised to a full champion. Errol Spence is calling him out. Not even an hour. It was less than an hour. Errol Spence is on his Twitter page tweeting about, let's make this fight. All you had to do was have something that I want. Let's make the fight. Nothing about 60-40, okay? Nothing about who was Ugas fought, because Ugas haven't actually fought for the belt. He just got the belt, okay? You don't hear anybody talking about, does Ugas deserve to fight? Who Ugas' record? Who was he fought? He hasn't fought nobody. Because I'm pretty sure you can't compare Ugas' record to Terrence Crawford's record, okay? But you don't hear none of that talk, okay? You don't hear anything about Errol Spence negotiating in the media for the Ugas fight. He's not there talking about, you got to take 60-40 Ugas or 70-30 or whatever I decide to give you. Do you hear anything like that? No, okay? None of that. So, again, the energy is there for people to see. He's not keeping the same energy with anybody else. But with Terrence Crawford, it's a whole bunch of things that he has to do before you can get that fight. You don't hear, any of the fans or the fanboys out there saying, like I said, that Ugas hasn't fought anybody. He doesn't have the record. He needs to fight this guy or that guy or whatever. Okay, and so we have to see it for what it is, people. And the nerve of these people, they're actually out there talking about Terrence Crawford is ducking Errol Spence because he doesn't want to accept 60-40. I mean, this is the kind of backward thinking that we're getting from, these so-called commentators out there. Now, here's a guy been calling out Spence for 3 years straight. Okay, 3 years straight he's been calling out Errol Spence. And Errol Spence has ducked every single time. Okay, at every opportunity, he duck, slipping and sliding, shucking and jiving. Okay, making up all kind of excuses, and they're saying now that Crawford is ducking him because Crawford is saying, "Look, I'm tired of this nonsense, man. How long I have to call this guy out? Okay, I'm done. I'm done with it. Okay, I'm not going to be mentioning his name anymore. I'm not going to be asking for this fight anymore." And at the end of the day, I mean, you can't really blame him. You get tired of calling people out, and they just, And I think what's really got Terrence Crawford more, perturbed than anything else is the fact that the fans and the people out there is not holding Errol Spence to the same standard that they do every other fighter. Like I said, they're quick to call Canelo a duck. They're quick to call this and that guy a duck. But with Errol Spence, no, he's making business moves. You know what I'm saying? He's making business moves. So, I mean, we even saw the fact that Errol Spence claims, and I'm going to say claim, okay, because I'm not going to say he actually called out Canelo. He claimed that he wanted to fight Canelo at 160 pounds, okay? And the only reason he said that was because they were asking about Terrence Crawford. And so to deflect the question about Terrence Crawford, he starts talking about Canelo. Oh, I can fight Canelo at 160 pounds. But he never actually called out Canelo. He never went to Canelo fight, and said, "Oh, Canelo, I want to fight you." Go to the ring and say, "Canelo, let's make this fight." Nothing like that. And whenever last time you heard him talk about Canelo, about fighting Canelo, after he did that publicity stunt where he went to the Canelo fight and did the interview and talked about he could fight Canelo at 160 pounds. Who was asking for the Canelo fight? And who do you know have been asking for Canelo and Errol Spence besides Errol Spence? Okay, nobody called for that fight. Nobody, you don't hear fans looking for that fight. Nobody really cares about Errol Spence fighting Canelo. The only person that's bringing that up is Errol Spence. And again, he's not even talking about calling out Canelo. He's just saying he could go up to 160 and fight Canelo when they ask him about fighting Terrence Crawford. Okay, so he's trying to duck Crawford, so he brings Canelo up to stop people from asking about Crawford. I mean, this whole thing is basically outrageous. So at the end of the day, nobody is really holding him, his feet to the fire in terms of the fight with Terrence Crawford. All of these fanboys, especially these guys in the LDBC, are basically just went along with whatever excuse Errol Spence has been making, and basically, just letting him have his way in terms of all of these excuses and not holding his feet to the fire. I mean, the only guy out there that I see from the LDBC, I think, is actually starting to really hold Errol Spence to the same standard is main man, okay? Main man. He's the one that's out there now calling for the fight and calling out the people that's giving Errol Spence license to duck Terrence Crawford, because that's what it is. They're giving him a license to duck. And the thing about giving someone a license to duck, once you give one person a license to duck, everybody else is going to pick up that license and run with it. And we see Jamal Charles doing the same thing now. Okay, he's even, coming out with even more ridiculous excuses, talking about age and vaccine, and he's not at 168 and all this talk. Okay, so now we see everybody, is just ducking. It's an epidemic of ducking going on, and this is all basically started with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. That's the right now, as far as I'm concerned, Errol Spence is the premier, numero uno, ducking champion of the world right now in boxing. Okay, that's how I see it. I mean, because you can't say that Terrence Crawford doesn't want this fight with Errol Spence. He wants to fight. He's been calling for the fight. Everybody's been calling for the fight. And like I said, before, PBC light lit up. Okay, sorry about that. He said main man is not LDBC. Okay, then that explains why he's calling for the fight then, because if he was LDBC, he wouldn't be calling for the fight. Okay, he'd be running with the the LDBC narrative, okay, which is that the 60 Errol Spence, that Terrence Crawford should take 60-40 and to make the fight happen. And I guarantee you this. I guarantee you that if Terrence Crawford was to come out tomorrow and say, okay, I'm going to take the 60-40, they'll make up another excuse. I guarantee you, I'll put money on it. Okay? I would put money on it that if Terrence Crawford came out tomorrow and said, listen, I'm going to take the 60-40, let's make the fight, Errol Spence would come up with another excuse why the fight can't happen. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Okay? So, that's basically, because that's what's been happening so far. Every time, one excuse run out, run its course, or people get tired of it, he comes up with a new excuse, okay? Him and his trainer, talking about other people's records and, Danny Gar, what Hall of Famer as Terrence Crawford fought. I'm saying to myself, what Hall of Famer as Errol Spence fought? I mean, at the end of the day, Errol Spence fought Kell Brook, which was probably the best fight he had at welterweight, okay? He fought Kell Brook, but Kell Brook came off of a loss, okay, against Triple G. Not just any loss, not just a regular loss, okay? He came up for a devastating loss to a middleweight, who at the time was the number one boogeyman in boxing, Triple G. Nobody wanted to fight Triple G. He challenged Triple G, and not like Errol Spence, he's talking about fighting Canelo. He didn't just talk about fighting Triple G. He actually moved up. He called out Triple G, moved up and fought Triple G. He didn't just say, oh, I can just move up and fight Triple G, because at the time, Errol Spence was calling him out, okay? So he didn't say, oh, I don't want to fight Errol Spence. I can just move up and fight Triple G. He didn't just actually say that. Okay, he actually did that. He actually moved up. He wasn't just talking. He actually moved up and fought at middleweight and got into got a devastating injury. Okay, and sustained that injury in the fight. Then not to mention moving up in weight. Then he had to come back down in weight after that such a devastating loss. Okay, and fight Errol Spence. Who was one of the top contenders at that point in time. Now, Errol Spence, caught Brook at a vulnerable moment, because at the time, his injury didn't even have time to heal, okay? Now, if I was him and I was at camp, I would have never taken that fight so early. I would have waited like at least 18 months before I took that fight after such an injury. But less than 9 months later, he's fighting Errol Spence after losing in such a devastating fashion to Triple G. and sustain in such a, basically what would in other words, for most other fighters, be a career-ending injury. Okay, he came down and then he had to lose all that weight and come down and fight Errol Spence, and still he put up a tough fight against Errol Spence, and the only reason why the fight was stopped is because he got injured in the other, his other eye socket got broken, and that just shows you that the eye socket, the original eye socket, hadn't actually healed completely. This is why the other socket broke as well. Okay, so that's the fight that Errol Spence, took on to become the champion. Okay, now once he had that fight with, once he won that fight against Errol Brook, who did he fight next? Who did Errol Spence fight after that? Okay, he fought a couple of guys, but then his next main fight was Mikey Garcia, lightweight Mikey Garcia. Okay, a guy that everyone said that he was going to knock out. Okay, I don't think there was anybody in boxing at that time who didn't think that. They thought Mikey Garcia was insane for wanting to fight Errol Spence. That's the kind of pedestal that they had Errol Spence on in terms of his boxing ability. They would say, "Oh, this is crazy. This Mikey, what did because Mikey Garcia said he saw something." So there was there was a lot of jokes made about what he claimed that he saw. Everybody thought he was delusional. They thought that there's no way he had a chance against Errol Spence. They said, I don't think there was one person in boxing, not one. There wasn't one person in boxing who didn't think that Errol Spence was going to knock out Mikey Garcia. Not just beat him, but knock him out, destroy him. Basically, that's what everybody thought. Okay? What happened in that fight? Mikey Garcia went the distance, a lightweight against Errol Spence. Okay, went the full fight with Errol Spence, and then what was the narrative after that fight? Oh, Errol Spence came out with a narrative. Oh well, he didn't really want to knock out Mikey Garcia. He just wanted to display his boxing skills. What the hell are you talking about? Display what? So you couldn't display your boxing skill and still knock him out? Okay, why not display your boxing skills for 5 or 6, 7 rounds and then knock him out? No, that didn't happen. And so a lot of people, had to come off their high horse, in terms of, Errol Spence, because again, even though Mikey Garcia was a lightweight, he wasn't a pushover. He had some skills, and, he made a lot of mistakes in that fight by putting on all that weight for one thing, and which he never should have done. And but still, Errol Spence could knock him out. Okay, what happened? So what was his next fight? What was Spence's next fight? He fought the guy that Kell Brook beat in Sean Porter. Okay, so he fought Kell Brook coming off an injury. Then he fighting the guy that Kell Brook already beat, which is Sean Porter. Okay, now Errol Spence himself said that I'm going to knock out Sean Porter. Okay, that's what he said. He said to Sean Porter many times, "I'm going to knock you out." He told Terrence Crawford that he's going to take the easy route and knock out Sean Porter rather than fight Terrence Crawford. Okay, and we all saw that video clip. That's what he said. Okay, he went in there because everybody, and then still people were thinking, "Oh yeah, he's going to knock out Sean Porter." A lot of people were thinking that he's going to knock out Sean Porter. Not as many people thought that, that he was going to knock out Mikey Garcia, but there was a lot of people out there said, "Oh yeah, he's going to knock out Sean Porter." No doubt about it. Sean Porter is perfect for him. He's perfect style for Errol Spence. He's definitely going to knock out Sean Porter. What happened? It was the toughest fight of his career. Okay, Sean Porter gave him the toughest fight of his career, and some would say if Sean Porter didn't get knocked down, he would have won that fight. Okay, so he fought Kell Brook, then he fought the guy that Kell Brook already beat. Okay, in Sean Porter, and that fight was the toughest fight of his life. Okay, who did he fight next after he fought Sean Porter? He fought the guy that Sean Porter beat in Danny Garcia. Okay, so I mean, do we see a pattern? Do anybody see a pattern there? Okay, Errol Spence is going backwards. Okay, he's going backwards. He's not going forward. He's going backwards. Okay, and his pay-per-view numbers shows this because in each fight, his pay-per-view numbers went down. Okay, so he fought Danny Garcia, and then people try to make up, try to boost up Danny Garcia. We had his trainer Derek Jones coming out there talking about, oh, Danny Garcia had a better record than Terrence Crawford. I mean, this guy is delusional. I mean, if Danny Garcia was such a good fighter and such a good, he has such a good record, why wasn't he champion? Why isn't he champion at welterweight? Okay, I mean, he had the title. He let Sean Porter take the title from him. Okay, so Kell Brook, then he fights the guy that Kell Brook beat in Sean Porter. Then he fights the guy that Sean Porter beats in Danny Garcia. Okay, so he's not really stepping up his game. He's stepping down his game. Okay, that's basically what's going on. Okay, and so it is what it is. At the end of the day, we just got to see for what it is. And I mean, there's a lot of people out there hyping up, there's a lot of publicity and, public relations behind Spence, okay, especially from these fanboys and also from these channels that basically, I think they're getting paid to say all the things that they're saying, okay. And, it is what it is. I mean, but beyond all that publicity and all that, hype, okay, the fact of the matter is that Errol Spence's record is not better than Terrence Crawford's record by, I think Terrence Crawford's record is better than his by far. Terrence Crawford is fighting undefeated fighters. He's knocking out people left and right, okay? And we see Errol Spence just fighting guys that have already been beaten, that, guys who, just because a guy is known more than another guy doesn't mean he's better than that guy, okay? Just because we all know the names of Terrence, we know the names of Sean Porter, we know the name of Danny Garcia, we know the name of Mikey Garcia. That doesn't mean that these guys are better than the guy that Terrence Crawford is fighting. I mean, name recognition doesn't necessarily mean superior boxing skill. But this is how people interpret these things, okay? Just because they know about Danny Garcia, then, he's a premier elite fighter. No, I'm not buying that, okay? Who has Danny Garcia beaten at a welterweight, okay? Who has Danny Garcia beaten at welterweight? What name? Give me a name that Danny Garcia has beaten at welterweight that we can say was an elite fighter. I mean, it is what it is. Errol Spence, again, it's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's just hype. Okay. Social media, you're right, Light Lit Up. It's all about a marketing team and social media reps. Okay. They take great advantage of his fan base. Let me put that up there so that people can see that. That's a very good comment right there from Light Lit Up. Okay. Great comment, Light Lit Up. That's exactly what's going on. Okay. It's all hype. And, the problem for Terrence Crawford is that he has a promoter that doesn't promote. Okay. And Bob Arum. Okay. He has a promoter who wants him to do the promotion. You know what I'm saying? So you got a problem right there. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And, I guess, after, let's just say that Errol Spence get the Ugas fight. Who's he going to fight after that? Where does he go? He fight what? Sean Porter again? More retreads? Okay, one thing I have to agree with Keith Thurman is that all Errol Spence is doing is fighting Keith Thurman leftovers. Okay, at the end of the day, that's all he has done so far. Fighting guys that Keith Thurman already beat or somebody else already beat. He fought Sean Porter when Sean Porter had like 3 losses in his record. Same with Danny Garcia. Okay, Mikey Garcia was undefeated, but he was a lightweight. Okay, and besides that, who else has he fought? Who else besides Kell Brook, Danny Garcia, and Mikey Garcia and Sean Porter? Who has he fought besides those guys? And those guys weren't, like Danny Garcia. I mean, I don't really couldn't say that he was an elite fighter at welterweight. He was a great fighter at 140 pounds, but at welterweight he didn't accomplish much. Okay, he got the title, and I think he got the title through some kind of elimination situation. Okay, it wasn't like he actually beat the champion and took the title. Okay, and then he lost it immediately after that. Okay, so I mean, at the end of the day, every time that Danny Garcia stepped up to the elite fight or the elite level, he lost. Okay, And then we look at Errol Spence. He's been fighting all these guys, going the distance with all these guys, and with Terrence Crawford, he's been knocking people out. I think he got like 8 knockouts in a row so far. He basically knocked out everybody he fought at welterweight. Okay, so I mean, at the end of the day, Terrence Crawford beat Manny Pacquiao. I mean, not Terrence. He didn't beat Manny Pacquiao, but Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao, and we saw what. You can say what you want to, but at the end of the day, some people say that he won, that Manny actually won, they stole the fight from him. But at the end of the day, he lost the fight. Okay, he had a very difficult time with Jeff Horn, and we saw what Terrence Crawford did to Jeff Horn. He knocked him out. Okay, pure and simple, just knocked him out. Okay, and so he beat the man that beat the man. Okay. I mean, we have to keep in mind that after losing to Jeff Horn, Manny Pacquiao went on to beat Keith Thurman, who was supposed to be the best fighter at welterweight. Yeah, he was coming off a layoff and some injuries, but at the end of the day, people consider Keith Thurman to be one of the best fighters at welterweight. Okay, some people even think he is better than Errol Spence. I'm not one of those people, but not this version of Keith Thurman anyway, but. He was beaten by Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was beaten by Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn was knocked out by Terrence Crawford. Okay? So, it is what it is. And I'm going to point something else out. Now, while he was 140 pounds, Terrence Crawford, when we talk about records and people that, who have fought who, okay, this is what I'm talking about right now. And, at the end of the day, we saw Ugas fight Thomas Delorme. That fight went the distance. It was a tough fight for Delorme. I mean, a tough fight for both of these guys. For Ugas, it was a tough fight for Ugas. Thomas Delorme, okay. Thomas Delorme was knocked out by Terrence Crawford in 6 rounds. Okay, 6 rounds he knocked out Delorme. Delorme went the full distance with, at welterweight with Ugas. Okay. So we can compare these things and see how things turn out and what these fighters' records actually turn out to be. I mean, we saw Ugas fight Sean Porter. Now I don't know if you guys saw that fight, but if you saw the fight with Ugas and Sean Porter. Now, if you compare that fight with Ugas and Sean Porter with the fight with Errol Spence and Sean Porter, who had an easier fight? Ugas or Errol Spence? Who made the fight look easier? Ugas or Errol Spence? Anybody saw that fight? You saw the way Ugas fought Sean Porter? You saw the way that Errol Spence fought Sean Porter? You saw the way that Sean Porter fought against Ugas and the way he fought against Errol Spence? Did anybody see that? I mean, to me, they stole that fight from Ugas with Sean Porter. He should have won that fight, okay? But look how easy Ugas made the fight look against Sean Porter, and look how tough the fight was with Errol Spence and Sean Porter. I mean, we need to really see what's going on. So, a lot of people thinking that, Errol Spence is going to, wash Ugas. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, he should win, if they were to fight. Errol Spence should win, okay? But based on what I'm seeing from Errol Spence so far, I mean, I don't think there's any guarantee that he's going to automatically beat Ugas, okay? Even though Ugas is an older fighter, 34, 30, 35 years old or whatever he is now, based on the fight that he had with Sean Porter and the way he handled Sean Porter, I'm not thinking that the Errol Spence fight and the Ugas fight is going to be that easy, because as we have seen so far, all the fights that Errol Spence has had, they never has been as easy as we thought it was going to be with Errol Spence. Whether it's Mikey Garcia, whether it's Sean Porter, whether it's Danny Garcia. Well, he basically handled Danny Garcia the way I thought he would. I mean, I did a prediction video for that fight. I thought he was going to win, but I thought that Danny Garcia would have more fire in him. But it looked like Danny Garcia is finished. So I mean, but the fight more or less went the way I thought it was going to go. That he was going to use the jab and he was going to out jab Garcia and keep him at bay, keep him at range, and that's exactly what he did against Danny Garcia. But the fight with Sean Porter wasn't as easy as we all thought it was going to be. And at the end of the day, he didn't stop Danny Garcia. Okay, he didn't stop Sean Porter. He didn't stop Mikey Garcia. When was the last time Errol Spence stopped anyone? Okay, when was the last time anyone went the distance with Terrence Crawford? So we see the contrast. Okay, Terrence Crawford is stopping people. Errol Spence is going the distance. Okay, and again, I don't really see that there's that much difference. Okay, in terms of skill or levels against the guy that Terrence Crawford is fighting, as opposed to the guys that Errol Spence is fighting. To say that Danny Garcia is an elite fighter and that he's better than all the guys that Terrence Crawford has fought is nonsense. Again, I'm going to make the point that just because you don't know a fighter, okay, or you don't know about that fighter, doesn't mean that he's any less than the fighter that you do know. Just because you know Danny Garcia's name doesn't make Danny Garcia a better fighter than Kavaliauskas or Benavidez or any other guy that Terrence Crawford fought at welterweight. Okay, the two don't go hand in hand. Okay, I'm sorry. Victor Postal, for example, just because you didn't know about Victor Postal doesn't mean he's not a good fighter. Or he's not a better fighter than most of the guys that Errol Spence has fought. So this is the kind of thing. But this is the fanboy mentality. Okay, they know all the PBC fighters. They don't know anything about any other fighters. Okay, so they automatically call the fighters that they know about elite. Okay, Hall of Famers and this type of thing. There's nobody that Errol Spence fought that is considered to be a Hall of Famer. Nobody. Who has he fought that's going to be that will be considered as a Hall of Famer? Who? So you can't make the criticism of Terrence Crawford saying he hasn't fought anybody that's a Hall of Famer when Errol Spence hasn't fought anybody that's a Hall of Famer. Maybe, Mikey Garcia might make it to the Hall of Fame, or maybe Sean Porter, maybe. Danny Garcia, I don't know about that. I don't know if any of these guys are going to make it to the Hall of Fame because they haven't done anything on that we can say, that was sustained. Okay, I mean, Danny's a two division champ, but he hasn't held on to the belt that long. He didn't defend it much. Same thing with Sean Porter. Okay, he lost the belt to Kell Brook right after he got it. Lost it again to Errol Spence right after he got it. So he never really defended the belt much. Okay, defended against Ugas, and we saw that fight. A lot of people thought Ugas won that fight. Okay, so at the end of the day, these guys, hasn't done anything that we can say is, that was sustained, at a high level. We see that Terrence Crawford has been champ for 7 years straight. Okay, that's what you call sustaining. Okay, 7 years straight, knocking people out left and right, and he's held on to that belt for that long. Okay, so nobody, and this is after being undisputed at 140 pounds. Okay, so when you look at their records, nobody's record even come close to Terrence Crawford. Not Errol Spence, not even Sean Porter, who was probably the most accomplished fighter at welterweight. Okay, in terms of the different fights he has had and the people he has fought. Okay, he's probably the most accomplished, but he has a win some, lose some record, and so it is what it is. But Terrence Crawford has sustained his championship and has defended his championship for 7 years straight. Who at welterweight has done that? Who? So at the end of the day, people can push all the narratives they want, okay, and talk about foolishness and talk about records and but we got to really look at what's going on, okay? Look at the records of these fighters and look at what these fighters are actually doing, not what these fanboys and these people that get paid to run their super chat and to make money, who's trying to make money off of super chat. We can't really, they're not going to be objective when it comes to assessing these fighters, what these fighters are doing. They're basically fanboys. These guys, that's what they are. They're fanboys, and they just pushing narratives, and and we all know some of them getting paid to do that. Okay, so they're gonna keep pushing these narratives, and the problem with that is that a lot of these fans and who are mostly decaf, don't really know much about boxing, and so they depend on these fanboy commentators to tell them about what's going on. It's like it's kind of like a religion, where these guys, they don't read the Bible, but they go to church and they listen to the preacher, and the preacher tell them what to think, and they think whatever the preacher tells them to think. It's the same thing with these boxing commentators. They like personalities. They like preachers who go and tell the fans, oh, this is what it is, and the fans, due to the fact that they don't really do the research themselves, they run with these narratives and listen to what these guys are saying, and it's ridiculous. I mean, it's stupidity, really. Yeah, I agree with you, lit up. I agree with you 100%. That's what's going on, okay? And, like I said, these fans don't really have any idea what's going on. Most of them are just casual fans, and they go to these channels and listen to these guys, and they don't do their own research. That's why when they tell you, oh, Danny Garcia is an elite fighter, and, who the hell is Kavaliakas, or who the hell is this guy? Because the fans don't really know about these guys, okay? They never seen them fight. They don't know who they are. So because, out of sight, out of mind. Okay. So if you don't know about this fighter, then automatically you're going to think, oh, these guys ain't no good because I don't know anything about them. Okay. And so the commentators tell them, oh, these guys is this and this guy is that, and they believe it. And so it is what it is. That's what we see going on. I agree with you 100%. These YouTubers are profiting off Crawford hate, and they put Crawford's name up there and they make money automatically, making thousands of dollars off super chat, at the expense of Crawford's name, okay? And, again, they're using Crawford to make money. He's bringing them their biggest payday. The same way he's going to bring Errol Spence the biggest payday, but Errol Spence don't want to fight him, because, listen, like I said before, I kept alluding to it, but I didn't really finish my thought on it. The PBC wants this fight with Terrence Crawford. They want the fight, PBC. I've heard, in the background that they want the fight, and they're trying to convince Errol Spence to take the fight with Terrence Crawford and to forget about this 60-40 split business and just take the 50-50 and get the fight, because that fight is good for boxing. The network is going to make money. The promoters are going to make money. The fighters are going to make money. So everybody from the networks down to the promoters, down to, all the people around boxing want that fight to happen, because it's a money-making fight for everyone involved. Okay, including Top Rank and PBC. Okay, so they want this fight. PBC want the fight, but they can't convince Errol Spence to take the fight. Okay, this is what's really going on. And we have heard Errol Spence say he's his own boss. Okay, so if he's his own boss and he's his own promoter, then Al Heyman is just his advisor. Okay, so it's not the PBC people trying to stop this fight from happening. It's actually Errol Spence who stopped the fight from happening. And, at the end of the day, if the fighter don't want to take the fight, it's not going to happen. Okay, no matter what the suits or the PBC or the Top Rank or anybody else say, because the fighter is really the boss, and he got to get in there and fight. If he doesn't get in there and fight, it's not going to happen. This is why you hear Errol Spence coming out. That's why he came out and he said, he's not going to take a pay cut, which he's talking about the 60-40 as opposed to the 50-50, because they're telling them, listen, Errol, man, just take the 50-50. Let's make this fight happen. Everybody want to fight. You're going to make a lot of money in this fight. Errol Spence is saying, he came out and said, I'm not going to take a pay cut, and that, he's not going to do what the suits tell him to do by just shutting up and fight. Okay, I don't know if you guys saw that, but he came out and said that, he's not going to listen to what the suits say. He's not going to just fight and shut up. Now, when he talk about suits, who is he talking about? He didn't say Bob Arum, okay, because Bob Arum said that PBC wants to fight. But he didn't come out and say, oh, I'm not going to listen to what Bob Arum say and just take the fight and shut up or take a pay cut. He said suits. So he wasn't talking about Bob Arum specifically. He was talking about suits. Now, who do you think he's talking about when he says suits? He's talking about PBC, okay? The people, but he's not going to come out and say the PBC or the people in PBC, because then it's going to come out that they want him to take the fight, and he's the one that's holding it up, okay? And the last time I checked, Al Heyman wears a suit, okay? Al Heyman is a suit. Okay, so Errol Spence comes out and said the suits want him to take this fight and to just fight and shut up and take a pay cut. But why don't they take a pay cut? Okay, and this is what's going on. So secretly, behind the scenes, the PBC is trying to push Errol Spence to take this fight, and he doesn't want to take it because he's trying to claim that by taking 50-50, he's taking a pay cut. Okay, this is what he's trying to say, but that's just an excuse. He's not taking a pay cut. He's going to make the most money he's ever made in his whole career in this fight. And everybody knows that, including the PBC. Okay, but again, like I said, a lot of people in the background, have been, they've been talking about this, and they've been saying that even the matchmakers at PBC are saying that Errol Spence don't want this fight with Crawford. He doesn't want it. Okay, he doesn't want anything to do with Crawford at all. Okay, even though they're trying to convince him to take the fight, he was refusing to take it, and this is what's really going on. Okay, and so that's why he came out and said, "Oh, let's talk about the suits." He's talking about PBC. Okay, he's talking about the people, the matchmakers, the executives at PBC, the networks that PBC is aligned with, who all of them want the fights. Everybody's trying to get Errol Spence to take this fight, and he's refusing to take the fight. Okay, and this is what's going on because, like I said, this fight is going to make more money. It's going to make money for everybody involved. Okay, everybody involved is going to make money. Networks. Okay, Top Rank, PBC, Errol Spence, Crawford, all the trainers. Everybody's going to make money off of this fight. But, Errol Spence don't want it because he's afraid to lose to Terrence Crawford. And this is what's really going on. And so when you see even his trainer, Derek James, coming out and making excuses, we heard Derek James said that, Errol Spence's legacy doesn't depend on him fighting Terrence Crawford. Well, if he doesn't fight Terrence Crawford, who is he going to fight? Who else is there for him to fight now? Okay, that's a career-defining fight for Errol Spence to fight Terrence Crawford. But Terrence Crawford, in reality, doesn't have to fight Errol Spence to define his legacy, really. Okay, so I mean, he has accomplished enough in boxing already. At the end of the day, if we want to be, keeping it 100, but like I said, Errol Spence don't want to fight. Even though PBC wants to fight, Top Rank wants to fight, Bob Arum wants to fight, all the people over there at PBC want to fight, Errol Spence, they're trying to convince him to fight. He don't want to fight. Okay, and that's what's really going on. And like I said, if the fighter doesn't want to fight, it's not going to happen because we see the same thing going on with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. Well, Deontay is claiming that he wants to fight. I'm not so sure about it, but that's what he's claiming anyway. And everybody wants to fight that's outside of his camp, but Tyson Fury doesn't want to fight, and so if he doesn't want to fight, it's not going to happen. Okay, this is how it is in boxing, really. If you want to, keep it 100, and so if the fighter doesn't, step into that ring and fight, then the fight is not going to happen. And it's the same thing with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. If Errol Spence doesn't accept that fight and go in there and fight, it's not going to happen. So all the talk about on the other side of the street, Terrence Crawford don't sell. He's the biggest, Errol Spence is the biggest pay-per-view star. Now the 60-40. It's all nonsense. It's all talking points. It's all narrative. It's bullshit at the end of the day. He's just afraid to get into that ring with Terrence Crawford. And so his trainer doesn't, believe what I'm telling you when I tell you that when Derek James look at Terrence Crawford, he probably has nightmares thinking about Terrence Crawford fighting Errol Spence. Believe what I'm telling you, okay? Derek James probably has not. He doesn't want Errol Spence to take that fight with Terrence Crawford because they know what Terrence Crawford brings to the table. Okay. Now I'm not saying that necessarily it's 100% guarantee that Terrence Crawford is going to beat Errol Spence. The fight have to happen for us to know how it's going to play out in the end. Okay, because it's totally conceivable that Errol Spence could end up beating Terrence Crawford. It's not impossible for that to happen, okay? But we're not going to know that unless these guys fight, okay? So, but Errol Spence is unwilling to take that chance, okay? And we see that to the point where he's willing to call out a guy. Well, let me take that back. He didn't call out Canelo. He just claims that he can go up and fight Canelo at 160. So he'd rather do that than fight Terrence Crawford. That just shows you how much fear Terrence Crawford is striking in the heart of Errol Spence. Okay, I mean, that's what it is. I'm not gonna, people talk about, oh, we shouldn't say fighters are afraid, this, that, and that. But at the end of the day, fighters are people. Okay, they feel happiness, they feel sadness. Okay, they feel fear, they feel bravery. They're just like anybody else. Okay, and at the end of the day, we gotta keep it 100. Errol Spence, I'm gonna say it, is afraid to fight Terrence Crawford. That's exactly what it is. And the only way we're gonna get that fight is to drag Errol Spence into the ring with Terrence Crawford kicking and screaming, because that's what he's gonna be doing. That's what he's doing right now, kicking and screaming the whole way, not to get into that ring with Terrence Crawford. This is what's going on. Okay, so we gotta keep it 100, people. We're not gonna sugarcoat this anymore. We gotta tell it like it is. Okay, we gotta tell it like it is. And yeah, like I agree with you, Light Up. Thurman did the same thing. They're trying to make Spence the face of boxing, but if Bud takes the belt, it can't happen. PBC is riding up the success of their manufactured fighter. Yeah, but like I said, even PBC wants this fight now. Because right now, with all this pandemic going on and everything that's going on in boxing, they need the money. I mean, there's not, what big fight does PBC has coming up that you know about? Deontay Wilder is finished as far as PBC's. Because the next big fight is going to be Anthony Joshua and Fury, and PBC has nothing to do with that. Okay, they're not going to make any money off of that fight. Okay, which is why they're trying to push. Which is why Deontay Wilder is trying to be a spoiler in that fight, trying to, go to arbitration, this, that. They were trying to make that fight happen, try to inject himself in between that fight, basically trying to stop the fight from happening. Okay, but PBC is not going to make any money up that AJ Fury fight. Okay, so what's really going on for PBC right now? Nothing. Okay, what's their next big fight? Who? Spence Ugas? Is that going to be a pay-per-view success? No. I don't think so. Nobody really knows Ugas like that. Okay. So, Danny Garcia is more known than Ugas at the end of the day. The only difference is Ugas got a belt, and that belt, it was given to him. He didn't fight to get the belt. He didn't beat Manny Pacquiao for the belt. So, a lot of people don't know anything about Ugas. So, that a fight between Ugas and Spence, besides the fact that Spence might pick up another belt, it's not going to be a monetary or commercial success. Okay. I doubt if it's going to do as much pay-per-view numbers as the Danny Garcia fight, which didn't really do that good. Okay, because at the end of the day, what's up, Campos Vasquez? Glad to see you in here, bro. Welcome. Yeah, at the end of the day, the Danny Garcia Errol Spence fight, they expected that fight to do 600 to 700 pay-per-view, and it only did around 200, 600 to 700,000 pay-per-view. That was what they expected to do. Okay, that was the expectation for that fight. 600 to 700,000 pay-per-views. The fight only did about 200,000 pay-per-views. Forget about this talk about 250, 300,000. It's all bullshit. It didn't do that well. Okay, it was a disappointment. It did less than all of his other pay-per-view fights. Okay, so the biggest pay-per-view fight Errol Spence had was Mikey Garcia. The Porter pay-per-view fight was even less than the Mikey Garcia fight, and the Danny Garcia fight was even less pay-per-view numbers than the Porter fight. So his pay-per-view numbers has been going down as opposed to going up. So all this talk about Spence being a pay-per-view star is just hype. There's the facts don't back it up. Okay, the facts is telling you the opposite. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know where these people are getting all this. How the hell do you be a pay-per-view star when your biggest pay-per-view number is 350,000 pay-per-view buys? And it might not even been that much. Okay. So how does that make you, when you have YouTubers making, you have guys like Tyson and coming out of retirement, doing exhibition and making 1 million pay-per-view buys? And you have the so-called face of boxing, okay? Errol Spence doing his last pay-per-view fight was 200,000 pay-per-views. How does that make you a pay-per-view star? I don't understand this kind of talk, okay? I'm at a loss. How does 200,000 pay-per-view buy make you a pay-per-view star? How? Is that what pay-per-view star has come to? I mean, it's a joke. Okay, so these, pay-per-view numbers that they and then, the funny thing about this whole pay-per-view thing is all these YouTubers, these blue blood sports and these guys are such, they love to inflate pay-per-view numbers, every time they come on, the pay-per-view number goes up an extra 100,000 or extra 50,000. Oh, well, Errol Spence and Danny Garcia did 250,000 pay-per-views the next time they come on the channel. Oh, yeah, well, Errol Spence and Danny Garcia, they did 300,000 pay-per-views the next time they come on. Oh, yeah, well, Errol Spence and Danny Garcia did 300,000 and 50,000 pay-per-views. It's ridiculous. Every time they come on, it's another, they add an extra 50,000 to the pay-per-view number. And these are I don't listen to what these guys are saying because they're talking nonsense, okay? These are fanboys. And they put a spin on everything that they say to make it look better. But in reality, if you look up the numbers, you will see that, these guys, like I said, the expectation was for Errol Spence and Danny Garcia to do 600 to 700,000, and they did less than 250,000. And so the money that they were supposed to make in that fight, they didn't make nowhere close to it. Nowhere close. Okay. At the end of the day, Terrence Crawford made more money in his last fight than Errol Spence did in his last fight. Okay? Because Terrence Crawford is getting $4.something million guaranteed. Okay? That's in his contract. Okay? So, at the end of the day, why would you want to leave Top Rank to come to PBC when actual PBC fighter is not making as much money as you are? Okay? At the end of the day. Errol Spence guaranteed purse for the Danny Garcia fight was $1.5 million. Did you hear what I just said to you? $1.5 million. That was his guaranteed purse for the Errol Spence fight. For the Danny Garcia fight. 1.5. His guaranteed purse was 1.5 million. And he was supposed to get money on the back end with the pay-per-view, but as you all saw, the pay-per-view numbers sucked. So naturally, he didn't make as much money as he would have thought on the pay-per-view. So, I doubt if he made $4 million altogether for that fight. While Terrence Crawford is guaranteed that amount of money, $4 million plus, regardless of who he's fighting. So, right now, they're out there talking about, we hear Sean Porter is asking for $5 million to fight Terrence Crawford, and we're hearing that, he would maybe accept $3 million to fight Terrence Crawford. But his last fight with Formella, he made $1.2 million. Okay, that was his guaranteed purse, and there was no back end money, there was no pay-per-view, there was no live gate. So that's all he made. So, but he's refusing to take $2 million to fight Terrence Crawford. Now, when he fought Formella, he didn't have a belt. Okay, he wasn't gonna win a belt if he actually won the fight, which he did. He didn't get a belt for winning that fight. Okay, but with Terrence Crawford, he's getting $2 million and he has a chance to win the belt if he's successful. But he doesn't want to take $2 million for that fight. But he took $1.2 billion to fight Formella, where there's no chance of him winning any belt whatsoever. So I don't really understand what's going on with these guys when it comes to boxing. So why wouldn't you want to fight Terrence Crawford for $2 million, okay, and a chance at winning the WBO belt, a chance of beating Terrence Crawford, the pound-for-pound #1 guy in the business, and getting all the accolades that come with that win? Why wouldn't you want to take that $2 million and take that fight? But you take $1.2 million to fight a guy like Formella, where nobody's giving you credit for that win because it was no big deal. So, I'm not really understanding, let's see what Lit Up is saying. Okay, he does need to leave Top Rank. They don't know how to promote, and they're publicly respecting him. He needs to move on. Well, from that perspective, I agree with you on that. If I was him, I would have left a long time ago, actually. Okay, at the end of the day, because if he had left a long time ago, he'd be making more money right now than he's making with Top Rank right now, more than likely. But then again, you can't argue with the money he's making. He's making good money with Top Rank, and so at the end of the day, Bud is. People say Bud is not his own boss, but he's his own boss. At the end of the day, he tells Top Rank, like they gotta pay him like a bonus, for not making the big fights, like extra $1 million, something like that. So at the end of the day, he's the one that's telling Top Rank that this is why Bob Arum has come out and said the things he said about Terrence Crawford, because Terrence Crawford is not putting up with his bullshit. Terrence Crawford is telling him, listen, man, get me the fights, or pay me my extra $1 million you're supposed to pay me. I'm not taking no pay cuts, okay, because you're not getting me the fights. I'm not taking a cut. The hell with you. You don't live, like it or lump it. And that's the way it is. And so Bob Arum is pissed off because he still got to pay Terrence Crawford $4 billion plus every fight. Okay, no matter who he's getting Terrence Crawford to fight. Okay, he has to pay him that money. And so, he doesn't really want to pay that money because he's not making it. Well, that's what he claims. He's not making the money back. But that's your problem. You're supposed to make the money fights. Okay, get the money fights out there. But then again, we gotta look at it from all angles, and a lot of these guys, don't want to fight Crawford. It's hard to get a fight for Crawford. Danny Garcia turned the fight down to fight him. We already know that Errol Spence been ducking him for damn near 3 years. Sean Porter claims he want to fight Terrence Crawford, but he doesn't want to take $2 million to fight him and get a chance to win the title. I mean, he's been talking about fighting Crawford for months, and he still hasn't activated the mandatory yet. I'm hearing now that he's going to activate the mandatory now, or he's about to activate the mandatory. What's been going on why haven't you activated the mandatory all these months? Okay, you talk about you want to fight, but you haven't activated the mandatory. So all you're doing is capping. Okay, at the end of the day, you're just capping. You're just talking. You're not serious. And and we see that he's talking about he doesn't even want to take $2 billion. Why would Top Rank pay Sean Porter more money than he has made with his own promoter, PBC, to fight Terrence Crawford? Tell me that. Why would Top Rank pay Sean Porter more money than they're paying their own fighter, $5 million? Why would they do that? So we see that these guys are not really realistic. They don't really want this fight with Terrence Crawford, no matter what they're saying. Okay, because they're looking for career-ending insurance in fighting Terrence Crawford. They want the big money because they already know that Terrence Crawford is going in there. He's not going to play with them. He's going to knock them the fuck out. Okay, and if they slip, they're out of there. Okay, and they know that it's not going to be a decision. It's not going to go the distance. Okay, they're either going to knock Crawford out or he's going to knock them out, and that's what's going to happen. Okay, and they all know this. And who wants to get knocked out? Okay, nobody wants to get knocked out, and they know that facing Crawford, that's a distinct possibility that they're going to get stopped. Okay, he's not Errol Spence. Crawford is not Errol Spence. He's not going to take you the distance. Okay, he's going to take you out of there if he can, and he's knocked out everybody at welterweight so far, and I don't think Sean Porter is going to be any different, or Errol Spence. He's going to knock them out if they fight, and they know that. Okay, they see his record. They understand. I mean, fighters know. The casual fans don't know, but the fighters know. They know what the real deal is. They all know. They know Crawford is nobody to be played with, and so nobody really wants to fight him at welterweight. So people can talk about, he's not fighting anybody, but nobody's stepping up to fight him. Okay, nobody. Okay, only the other people like it's mandatory. People like Velasquez. He's stepping up to fight him. Because that's they want a chance at winning the belt. Okay, but a lot of these other fighters like Danny Garcia, Porter, they have had belts before, so it's not a big deal for them to get another belt. They're pretty well known, so they're not going to just jump in there with Terrence Crawford, and because they already know what they're dealing with. Okay, they want to get paid. They want insurance just in case they get destroyed in there. They can have something to fall back on because they know what they're dealing with Terrence Crawford. Is the real deal, And again, at the end of the day, I really believe that if it wasn't for the ducking of Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence, Crawford would be undisputed at 147 by now. He could have been undisputed 2 years ago if these guys would have fought him. Okay, but they're refusing to fight him. So you can't really blame Crawford for that, for not getting the fights, because these guys don't really want to fight no matter what money they're getting paid. Okay, at the end of the day, it looks like he's going to have to move up and fight somebody like Castano now that Castano is a champion. But we hear that Castano is calling out Jamel Charlo. So we're going to see how that plays out. But at the end of the day, if let's just say Castano and Jamel Charlo fight, and then Jamel Charlo wins that title, win that WBO title, then Crawford could jump up and fight him automatically because he'd have to fight Crawford because he had the WBO strap, and so that would be a fight, to be made at 154 pounds. I think that's where Crawford is probably going to end up, because I'm, and unlike other people, that's out there, I don't believe that Errol Spence is going to fight Terrence Crawford. I don't care what people say. The fight is not going to happen under no circumstances. If Crawford came out and said today, I'll take 30%, Errol Spence will come with another excuse not to fight him. Okay, and that's what's been going on for the past 3 years. Every time he keeps moving the goalposts. Okay, every time. Let's see what Light Up is saying. Okay, Porter said he settled for $3 million. Top Rank should do it. Crawford needs his name to help him. Nah, there's nothing that's going to help the Spence negotiation. Let me put that up there so people can see that. I'm not buying this at all. Porter said he settled for $3 million. Top Rank should do it. Crawford needs his name to help him. No, I don't believe that anything is going to help to negotiate with Spence. That wouldn't stop Spence from ducking Crawford at all. I do not think that Errol Spence wants to fight Terrence Crawford under any circumstance. This is what I'm telling you, people. He doesn't want to fight when your own company, your own promotion, PBC is telling you to make the fight and you don't want to make the fight. What makes you think that Crawford beating Porter is going to make the fight happen? No, I'm not buying that. If I was Top Rank, I wouldn't give him no. I don't believe it. No, that's not going to make the fight any closer. As a matter of fact, do you actually believe that if Crawford goes in there and knock out Sean Porter, that Errol Spence is going to jump to fight him faster? Do you believe that? I mean, come on, you gotta be reasonable, people. No, that's gonna make the fight even more difficult. If Crawford beat Porter, especially if he did it the way he beat Kell Brook, forget about the Errol Spence fight. That fight would get even further away than it is now. And it can't get any further away than it is now, really, because it's as far away as you can get right now. So just think if Crawford goes in there and knock out Porter, you think Errol Spence is going to say, oh, he just knocked out Porter and I went to distance Porter, so let me go ahead and fight Terrence Crawford. No, that's not the way it works, okay? He come up with another reason to not to make the fight. Believe what I'm telling you. It's not that. I don't think that fight will ever happen. Let me just put it to you like that. The fight was never going to happen because Crawford, Spence don't want to fight Crawford under any circumstance. I'm sorry. I don't believe it. Everything I've seen so far from Spence tells me that there's nobody on this earth that could make him fight Terrence Crawford. Guy would have to come down and snatch him up and throw him in the ring with Crawford for that fight to happen. I don't see it happening under any circumstances. Okay, if it's up to Errol Spence, that fight will never happen, and that's the way it is, as far as I can see. Let's see what you're saying now. When did PB say? Okay, well, you say when did PB say they want to fight? Okay, let me tell you. And sometimes you got to read between the lines, okay? Because you're saying that if PBC wanted to fight, that fight will be made. No, not necessarily. Because again, you heard Errol Spence say he's his own boss. Al Heyman is his advisor. He has his own promotion company, okay? So there's no promoter, telling him he got to make the fight. Al Heyman advises Errol Spence, okay? And we heard Errol Spence came out and said that the suits want him to make this fight. They want him to shut up and fight. Who do you think he's talking about when he said the suits? It's not Bob Arum, because, that's not part of his company. Bob Arum he's not under Bob Arum. So which suits is he talking about? When he said the suits want him to fight and shut up, but he's not going to take a pay cut. Who do you think he's talking about? And also, I've heard from behind the scenes from people that know that PBC wants this fight, but Errol Spence don't want it. They're trying to convince him to take the fight, but he won't take it. They're not going to come out and say they're trying to convince him to take the fight because they don't want to. They're not like Bob Arum. They're not going to come out and diss their fighter like that. But behind the scenes, we're hearing that they want this fight, okay? And Errol Spence is the guy that's stopping it from happening. So when Bob Arum came out and said, that PBC wanted to fight, he's telling the truth. I mean, you can say what you want about Bob Arum, but he knows a lot about boxing. He knows a lot of people in boxing. He knows the ins and outs of boxing. So if PBC I wouldn't be surprised that PBC, he talks to people in the background at PBC, and they're talking about this fight, but it's Errol Spence that don't want to fight. So when you hear Errol Spence come out and say, "Oh, the suits are trying to get him to shut up and fight," that's exactly what they're talking about. They're talking about PBC. Okay, they want him to make the fight, but he doesn't want to make it. So that's where that's coming from. So the idea that because PBC want to fight that it will be made, that's not necessarily true. If the fighter doesn't want to fight, nobody can make them fight. There's nothing that say that he can make them fight. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead and check it out. Lit up. Go ahead and check it out. Look, ask around if you have any inside, people that you can ask. That's what's going on. They want this fight because, like I said, it's a pandemic. There's not much going on. Where is PBC next big fight? That's what I want to ask you guys. What's coming up for PBC? What is their next big fight schedule? What other fight do they have besides the Errol Spence Terrence Crawford fight right now for PBC? Tell me. Yeah, but Bob Arum just came out and said that Al Heyman wanted to fight. Didn't you hear him say that? Did you hear Al Heyman come out and say no, that's not the case? Did anybody at PBC said that when Bob Arum came out and said Al Heyman wants to fight, but it's Errol Spence that's standing in the way of making the fight? Did you see anybody at PBC come out and say that that's not true? Did you see that? Did Al Heyman come out and say no, that's not the case? Did anybody at all from PBC? Did anybody come out and dispute what Bob Arum said? Not even Errol Spence disputed what Bob Arum said about Al Heyman. He didn't come out and say that. He just came out and said, "Oh, the suits want him to fight. They want him to take a pay cut, but he's not going to do it." Oh yeah, Arum did say that. Look it up, man. You behind the times, bro. Look it up. Bob Arum did say that Al Heyman said that he wants to fight. Look it up, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm not making it up. Yeah, okay. No, the fighters don't have to do what they're told. Again, Errol Spence is advised by Al Heyman. Okay, if these fighters have to do what they're told, why isn't Gary Russell getting any big fights? If they have, why isn't he fighting anybody? Why are a lot of these fighters not fighting each other if they got to do what they're told? No, that's not the case. And even if they're working for promoters, the promoters work for them. They hire, the promoters, they don't. The promoters don't. Even Bob Arum came out and said that he doesn't tell fighters what to fight. He doesn't tell fighters who to fight. It's up to them who they want to fight at the end of the day. Okay, so you got this thing twisted, bro. That's not the way it works. Fighters are not robots. The promoters shouldn't just tell them to fight whoever, and they just fight whoever. Maybe when you just start out and you just getting in there, maybe they can put pressure on you to make certain fights, but they can't tell a fighter who to fight and when to fight. That's not the way it works. Nah, no, that's not the way it works. Sorry. You got that twisted, bro. It doesn't work like that. Again, Errol Spence has told you from his own mouth that he's his own boss. So, I don't know what else you need to know. Okay? He said that he's his own boss. He said that more than one occasion. I'm my own boss. I don't work for no promotion company. He told you that. Okay? He's his own boss. So if you're not going to take the fighters, you don't got to take my word for it. Take the fighter's word for it. And the fighter's telling you that he doesn't have a boss and that he's his own boss. What more do you need to know? It's okay if you don't believe me, but you're not going to believe the fighter. You're not going to believe Errol Spence when he tells you that he doesn't have a boss and that he's his own boss. What are you telling me? Come on. You got to be reasonable, bro. And at the end of the day, even Bob Arum, you saw Bob Arum came out and said that Terrence Crawford doesn't want to take certain fights. Okay, if Arum was the boss, why couldn't he force Crawford to take these fights? Okay, because he can't. You know what I'm saying? He can't force Crawford to fight whoever he want to fight. Okay, so you guys, a lot of you guys don't really know much about boxing, man. You think you know, but you don't really know. Okay, it's not the way you think it is. Okay, this is not back in the 60s or the 40s. This is today. A lot of fighters, up on what's going on, and basically, Mayweather has kind of changed boxing, in a lot of ways, and a lot of fighters are their own bosses now. They're not working. As soon as a fighter get any kind of name for themselves, they start their own promotion company. Okay, and now Mayweather Promotions, Man Down Promotions, About Billions Promotions. Mikey Garcia got his own. All these guys have their own promotional companies. They don't go under any promoter. Okay, they make deals with promoters. Okay, and they fight whoever they want to fight. They don't have to fight. They don't have to fight who the promoter tells them to fight. That's not the case. I mean, I'm sorry. No, Arum said that Crawford didn't want to take certain fights because that's what it is. He didn't want to take the fights. Okay, because Crawford want to fight the champions. He don't want to fight some guy on his way up or this guy or that guy. He wants to fight the champions. He wants to fight Manny Pacquiao and he wants to fight Errol Spence. He don't want to waste his time fighting, guys that don't really have nothing to offer him. So when Bob Arum said that Crawford didn't want to take certain fights, that's because that's what it is. And Bob Arum cannot force him to take fights. This is what you have to understand. So if you're not going to listen to even Bob Arum, you're not going to listen to the fighter. I mean, you don't got to listen to me. But Bob Arum is telling you this. The fighters is telling you this, so you're not going to listen to them either? You're just going to make up your own mind and say what you want to say because that's what you think? No, it doesn't work like that, bro. It doesn't work like that at all. Okay? These fighters fight who they want to fight. That's the way it is. There's nobody forcing them to make any fights. And when Bob Arum tells you that Terrence Crawford, he said the same thing about Tyson Fury. Okay? He said, I can't get in the ring and fight for Tyson Fury. If he doesn't want to fight, he said, I don't force these guys to fight. I can't force them to fight anybody. So that's what it is. So you can say what you want to, and you can think what you want, but the reality is totally different. Okay? These fighters don't have to fight. They fight who they want to fight at the end of the day. They take fights according to what they think is in it for them, or if they feel they have an advantage, or they feel they can win a fight, or as opposed to certain fights. So that's the way it is. Okay, that's not what you're telling me. Doesn't make any sense because nobody believes that, and except for you. I mean, the fighters know better, and the promoters know better, and they've come out and said that. So I don't know what else you need to hear. Yeah, well, Arum is one of the biggest liars, in boxing. But you believe him when he say that. But you believe him when he tell you that Crawford doesn't want to take fights. Okay, but you believe that. But he's one of the biggest liars in boxing. Make up your mind, bro. Even he's one of the biggest liars in boxing. Now he doesn't know what he's talking about. Make up your mind. Which one is it? So you gotta, you can't have it both ways. Either he's lying all the time, or he's just lying. He's not lying at all. So if you believe that that you believe him when he tells you that Crawford, doesn't want to take. Here that you say Arum said Crawford didn't want to take certain fights in order to disparage him in the media. So I mean, what is it? I mean, which one is it? I mean, make up your mind. You want to believe what you want to believe, but results speak for themselves. So at the end of the day, I'm telling you, and the fighters are telling you, and the promoters are telling you that they don't force fighters to fight. Okay, if the fighter don't want to fight, it's not going to happen. That's the way it is. Okay, they can put pressure on fighters. They can, put, like you said, put media pressure on them or disparage them in the media to make them want to take certain fights, but at the end of the day, they can't force them to fight. Okay, that's the way it is. I know you didn't make it up, but you're just making my point. Like I said, you said that he's trying to disparage Crawford. Why would he need to disparage Crawford if he could force him to actually take a fight? If he could force him to take a fight, he would just force him to take the fight. He wouldn't disparage him in the media to try to put pressure on him to take the fight. Okay, which is what you claim that he's doing. He's disparaging him so he can take these fights. But he's not doing it. Okay, so that means that Arum can't force him to take any fight. Okay, that's the way it is, bro. I mean, make up your mind, man. Use your common sense. Yeah, you gotta use your common sense, bro. What you're saying don't make any sense. These fighters are not being forced to do anything. Okay, they like I said, a promotion company can put pressure on fighters. Okay, but they can't really force them to make fights that they don't want to fight. Okay, at the end of the day, Okay, and that's the way it is. Like I said, a lot of fighters have gotten a lot smarter now since Mayweather. And a lot of these fighters, have lawyers out looking over the contract. They're not just signing contracts like they used to back in the day. This is not 1950 or the 1960s or the 70s even. Okay. Back in the day, back in the time of say Mark Breland, when Mark Breland was fighting, fighters had no control of who they fought. They had to fight whatever fight came up. They couldn't pick and choose fights. Okay, they couldn't cherry pick. They had to fight the next guy or whoever the next guy was. Okay, that the promoters and the people put in front of them. But nowadays, I mean, a lot of you guys out there saying that these fighters are cherry pickers, but then you say that the promoters can force them to fight. How can either they're cherry pickers or the promotion is forcing them to fight? You can't have it both ways. They can't be cherry pickers and then also be forced to fight. It's not the way it works. If they're cherry pickers, that means they fight who they want to fight. Okay, at the end of the day, and as you can see, if you look at boxing right now, that's what's going on. All these guys are cherry picking. Okay, that means that nobody's forcing them to make any fight. They fight who they want to fight. That's what cherry picking means. Okay, and that's what it is. Man, I'm not gonna argue this point with you anymore, bro, because if you can't figure it out by now, you're never going to figure it out. Okay, I already told you what it is, and you just go do your research to find out what's going on. I'm not going to keep arguing with you about the same point. There's no point in beating a dead horse. You're going to keep asking me questions about it, but no, these fighters fight who they want to fight. Nobody's forced them to do anything, okay, at the end of the day, and that's what it is. You don't know what you're talking about, man. You're just talking. So I'm not even gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna continue with that. Okay. If you don't know what cherry picking means, then you don't understand what's going on. I'm sorry. Okay. Cherry picking means you pick the fight that you want to fight. And that means that the promoter has nothing to do with that. Okay. I mean, at the end of the day. So well, I mean, you don't know what you're talking about, bro. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, Errol Spence doesn't have to fight Hal Heyman. Doesn't force Errol Spence to fight anybody. Errol Spence has his own promotion company. It's called a Man Down Promotion Company. He picked the fights that he wants to fight. Okay, that's the way it works. Nobody can force him to fight Terrence Crawford. Okay, and that's why he hasn't fought Terrence Crawford. Believe you me, if PBC could have forced him to fight Terrence Crawford, that fight would have happened already. Okay, but they can't force him to fight. All they can do is put pressure on him to make the fight. But if he withstands the pressure, there's nothing they can do about it. Okay, and we have seen that play out. Has just played out so far. They're trying to get him to make that fight, but he's refusing to make the fight. He doesn't want the fight under any circumstances. And I believe that he's never going to make that fight. Okay, there's no way he's going to take that fight with Terrence Crawford because he doesn't believe he can win against Terrence Crawford, and that's just the way it is. Okay. He's just going to keep picking fights. He's going to keep cherry picking fights like now he wants to fight Ugas because Ugas got the other belt. Okay. I mean, Terrence Crawford has a belt. So why didn't he want to fight Terrence Crawford for his belt? Why didn't he call out Terrence Crawford? Why didn't he tell Terrence Crawford, all you had to do was have something I want and then go and fight Terrence Crawford? No, he did everything in his power not to make the fight happen. So, but it's not the same with Ugas. Because why? Because he believes he can beat Ugas. But he doesn't believe he can beat Crawford. That's why he didn't call out Crawford. That's why he didn't accept Crawford calling him out. That's why he's not going to fight Crawford under any circumstances. And it is what it is. I mean, look at the situation and use your brain, man. It's not rocket science. It doesn't take it's common sense. I mean, come on, you guys don't have any, you don't have any common sense, bro. You're just talking up on emotion. At the end of the day, like I said, not even an hour after Ugas got the title, Errol Spence was calling him out. Not an hour hadn't gone by, he called out Ugas. Okay. Oh, all you got to do is have something that I want. Let's make this fight happen. Okay. Why couldn't he say the same thing about Crawford? Did he hear him say anything about Ugas having to take 60-40? No. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Man Down, Strap Season came back out of hiding. Okay. Strap Season has been in hiding for 3 years while Terrence Crawford has been calling him out. You don't hear him say nothing about Strap Season, okay? But all of a sudden, now that the fight with Ugas, he wants to fight with Ugas, it's Strap Season all of a sudden. So, I mean, it is what it is, people, okay? At the end of the day, Errol Spence, people can say what they want to, but like I said, all you got to do is look at the proof is always going to be in the pudding, okay? And so when you see what's going on with the Ugas situation, Errol Spence calling him out immediately, talking about, oh, all you have to do is have something that I want, which is a belt. Crawford has a belt, but you don't hear him saying that about Crawford. You don't hear him saying Ugas got to take 60-40. You don't hear him saying that he's a pay-per-view star. You don't, when it comes to Ugas, you don't hear him saying that, he's doing the heavy lifting when it comes to Ugas and Ugas has to take 60-40 or 70-30 or whatever he decides to give him. He's not saying none of that. He's just saying he wants to fight Ugas. And now it's strap season all of a sudden. But, when Crawford was calling him out, strap season was in hiding. Okay, but now all of a sudden, strap season comes out of hiding. Okay, when he's talking about Ugas. It is what it is, people. It doesn't take a genius to figure it out, okay? And so it is what it is. Spence want no parts of Crawford. I don't think he's going to fight Crawford under any circumstances. I think he's going to keep ducking Crawford as long as he can, okay? And he can continue to duck Crawford as long as he wants to, because like I said, nobody can force him to fight Crawford, okay? And so that's why he's been ducking Crawford for so many years. That's why he's going to keep ducking Crawford. And at the end of the day, right now, Errol Spence is the biggest ducker in boxing as far as I'm concerned. And that's just the way it is. And who don't like it just don't like it. But you can't deny the facts. All you have to do is look at the facts, and then you will understand what's really going on. If you're not a fanboy or a decaf, then you know what's really going on with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Anybody with any common sense knows that. And like I said, even the PBC people knows that. But they're not going to come out and disparage Errol Spence. They're not going to do like Bob Arum do, come out and try to disparage Errol Spence, which is supposedly their cash cow. That's not really making much money for them anyway. You're a cash cow, but you're not making much money. So, PBC's not making the money off of Errol Spence. Okay, I mean, at the end of the day, because he's not fighting anybody. Okay, the biggest money maker for him to fight is, Terrence Crawford, and he's not making that fight. And like I said, all the suits want Errol Spence to make the fight with Crawford. And these suits are like, PBC, Top Rank, the networks, ESPN and Fox. All of these guys want this fight to be made because it's gonna, it's big publicity for all of them, it's big money for all of them, and they want this fight, especially in this pandemic. But the only person that doesn't want that fight is Terrence Crawford and his fanboys out there. And so that fight is not going to happen unless unless Errol Spence want to fight. The only person that don't want to fight is Errol Spence and his fanboys, not Terrence Crawford. But Errol Spence and his fanboys don't want to fight. There's no question that Crawford wants to fight. He's been calling out for this fight for 3 years. Errol Spence has ducked him at every turn, and he's continuing to duck as we speak. And he's going to continue to duck in the foreseeable future, because, now that Ugas got the belt, he got another escape route, so he can go and fight Ugas, okay? Even though that fight is not going to really make him any money, he's not going to make him the same amount of money that Terrence Crawford is going to make him. And, sometimes, fate have a way of, putting, things in your way. He might end up going to fight Ugas and end up losing his titles to Ugas, okay, for less money than he would have made against Crawford. And that would be ironic if that was to happen. And it could well happen, okay? And if that was to happen, that would be a disaster for PBC and for Errol Spence, that he go ahead and, he's been ducking Crawford all these years. He go and fight Ugas thinking he's going to win and end up losing the title, okay? Losing his titles to Ugas. And then he would have lost his titles for less money against Ugas than he would have made against Crawford if he had lost against Crawford. And so if that was to happen to him, because that's what happened to Keith Thurman at the end of the day, okay? And where's Keith Thurman now? On the sidelines looking in. And that probably, the same thing could happen to Errol Spence if he loses to Ugas, okay? He'll be on the sideline. Look what happened to Manny Pacquiao. Now he's talking about he wants $40 million to fight Crawford. I mean, what the hell is this guy talking about? I mean, I respect Manny Pacquiao. He's a GOAT. He's one of the greatest of all time. But at the end of the day, when you had a belt, you wanted $20 million to fight Crawford. Now you lost your belt, you want $40 million to fight Crawford. What are you talking about? Okay, I mean, does that make any sense to anybody? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, at the end of the day, uh, you know, it's conceivable that the same thing could happen to Errol Spence. He could end up losing his belt to Ugas, and at the end of the day, be on the outside looking in. Okay, and then Ugas will go ahead and make the big money fight with Terrence Crawford and reap the benefits of that, whether he wins or loses. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who wins or who loses. It's about the money. And so if you make good money in these fights, then that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? You don't have to win. I mean, people still ride with Sean Porter. People still ride with Danny Garcia. People still ride with a lot of fighters that lost more than one fight. People still ride with Manny Pacquiao, whether he have a belt or not, or whether he wins or he loses. So winning or losing, is not really the point at the end of the day. I mean, it's good to win all the time, but it's also good to make money. And so if everybody's making money, okay, you and the guy you're fighting is making money, you're gonna win some and you're gonna lose some. That's just the way it works. So you can't win them all unless you're Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, these guys should get together. Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, they should get together and make money for each other. They could make money together. They could get 3 fights and make big money in all 3 fights. Okay? At the end of the day, they could get big money in 3 fights between them, but they're not doing that. Even because Errol Spence don't want to do it because he's afraid of fighting Terrence Crawford. And it is what it is. I mean, we got to call it like it is, people. We can't sugarcoat this thing with Errol Spence anymore. I mean, at the end of the day, this ducking that he's doing is ridiculous. And, it is what it is. I didn't even see you. Lit up. You still in there talking, huh? Well, again, Errol Spence, Al Heyman is Spence's advisor, not his promoter, number one. Errol Spence has his own promotion company. It's called Man Down Promotion, okay? Whether you want to believe it or not, it's there. It's a real promotion company, no matter what you're saying, okay? So, again, Al Heyman doesn't promote. He's an advisor. He doesn't tell the guys who to fight or who not to fight. He presents them with options and they make their own decisions. That's the way it works. Okay, so what you're talking about is foolishness. Errol Spence has came out and said the same exact thing that I'm saying, that he's his own boss. Okay, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're still up there talking foolishness. I mean, Al Heyman is an advisor. Do you know what advisor means? Look it up. Okay, what advisor means? What the hell is wrong with you, man? Something is wrong with you, bro. You don't get it. It's like you're thick. You can't get it. Okay, I mean, you're gonna dispute the fighter when the fighter tells you that he's his own boss and that Al Heyman is his advisor. You're still gonna say, so you're saying that Errol Spence is lying. He's not his own boss, and that Al Heyman is his boss. You don't know what you're talking about, man. Go do your research and find out what's happening. Again, you're just another casual fan. Look like you don't know nothing about boxing, and when people try to tell you what's going on, even though when the fighters tell you, you still don't want to believe them. Okay, so when the promoters tell you the same thing, you still don't want to believe them. You want to believe what you want to believe, but that's just what you want to believe. They have nothing to do with reality, bro, and that's the way it is. I mean, I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's how it is. So you can believe what you want, but at the end of the day, Errol Spence is his own boss, as he has said himself on more than one occasion. Okay, Man Down Promotions is who decides who Errol Spence fight or who he doesn't fight, not Al Heyman. Okay, Al Heyman presents him with options. He gets him. He said, "Okay, we have this for you. We have that for you. Okay, what do you want to do? You want to take this one? You want to take that one? Pick what you want to do. It's up to you." And that's what happens. So, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Even though, again, PBC wants to fight with, they want this fight with Crawford because, like I said, it's a pandemic going on, and PBC doesn't really have any big thing coming up next. And a fight like Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford would bring a lot to the table for, again, not just PBC and Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, but also the networks. Okay, do you understand what that means? For the networks, a lot of publicity, a lot of promotion, a lot of people talking, a lot of eyes, on them, and they want that, especially in this type of pandemic, in this kind of situation that's going on right now. But so they're out there putting pressure on Errol Spence to take the fight. This is why Errol Spence is coming out and saying the suits want him to fight, just fight and shut up, but he's not going to do it because he's not going to take a pay cut. He doesn't want to take 60-40. He doesn't want to take 50-50 because to him that's a pay cut. But that's just an excuse, like I said, because he doesn't really want to fight with Crawford. So he's just using that as this pay cut nonsense as an excuse. There's no pay cut. How is it gonna be a pay cut when you're making more money than you've ever made in your career? How is that a pay cut? So people gotta think. People not thinking. They're thinking. They just listen to this fighters talk and they're thinking that it's like they don't use their brain. I mean, how can it be a pay cut? What kind of pay cut is he talking about taking when he's making the most money ever in his career if he was to fight Terrence Crawford? How is that a pay cut? How is you making more money than you ever made a pay cut? It doesn't make any sense. So you people just need to use your brains and see what's really going on. Okay, so it is what it is. And as for you, I see you said something about unsubbing to my channel. Go ahead and unsub. I could care less. Okay, I mean, I don't need people like you on my channel talking foolishness because you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so do me a favor and unsub as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? If you don't unsub, that's fine. If you unsub, that's fine too. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you're not the only person out there. You're only one person. So, I appreciate everybody that subscribes to my channel, but I'm not gonna, tell you what you want to hear because that's what you want to hear. But it seems like that's basically what that's what the other guys do. Okay, that's what. If you want people to tell you what you want to hear, go to Blue Blood Sports or go to Phantom Boxing and let them tell you what you want to hear. You come here to TBE Boxing, I'm going to tell you like it is. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear, so you're not going to get that from me. Okay, so forget about it if that's what you're looking for. Go somewhere else to somebody to babysit you or wipe your ass or whatever you want people to do. I'm not that guy. Okay, so that's all I got to say to you. Lit up. Okay, it is what it is. I'm going to tell it like it is. Okay, so you can make of it what you want. It's up to you, bro. Okay, if you want somebody to blow smoke up your ass, go somewhere else to get that done. I don't do that. And TBE, we tell it like it is, bro, and that's how it is. Okay, so I'm telling you like it is. That's the way I see it. I'm going to tell you the way I see it. I'm not going to blow smoke so you can feel good about yourself. Forget about that. Are you serious? But anyway, at the end of the day, again, like I said, I don't see this fight with Spence happening with Crawford anytime soon. I don't think it's ever going to happen because Crawford wants to fight. Spence doesn't want it, and he's going to continue to make excuses. If Crawford came out today and said, I'll take 70-30, Errol Spence still wouldn't take the fight. He's come up with another excuse not to make the fight. And the reason I'm saying that is because that's what he's been doing so far. Okay, he's been making all kind of excuses, and he's going to keep making them. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. A lot of fans out there, are giving these fighters excuses to duck, giving them ducking license, and they're taking these ducking license and running with it. And so we see the result of it. We're not getting the fights that we want because these fighters are ducking, and they continue to duck, and they're going to keep ducking because they have a license to duck. Okay, social media has given these guys license to duck. Back in the days, like I said, like Mark Breland said recently, back in this day, they had to fight the fight that came up. They couldn't pick and choose who they wanted to fight. So back in those days, you got great fights because fighters couldn't just pick and choose. They couldn't just cherry pick like they're doing today. Like, Deontay Wilder, fighting all these fights and not really fighting anybody, okay? Tried to cherry pick Tyson Fury when he thought that Tyson Fury, was drunk, coming off of the couch, weighing 400 pounds, drinking, drugging, okay, eating himself into obesity. He thought he had an easy win. He could beat him up before he get into top shape, and we all saw what happened. Okay, it was a case of cherry picking going wrong. Okay, that's what these fighters do nowadays. They cherry pick, and so we saw that in the second fight with Fury and Deontay Wilder. When Fury got back into better shape and then close to top shape, we saw what he did to Deontay. You saw what he did to Deontay Wilder. He smashed him. Okay, and so again, Wilder could have fought AJ. Okay, and this is the same situation we see with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. Wilder could have fought AJ for $100 million. Got big money even if he lost to AJ, but instead he chose to fight Fury again and end up getting smashed and losing his title, okay? And now he's on the sidelines begging for a fight with Fury again, okay? So, the same thing probably could happen to to Errol Spence. I mean, I don't want that to happen to him, but it could happen. It's the same thing that happened to Keith Thurman. You know, you think you're on top of the world, and you know, next thing you know, you're on the sidelines, you know, outside peeking into the window trying to get in on what's going on. And you know, that's what's going on with Fury and Deontay. That's what happened to Deontay Wilder. That's what happened to Keith Thurman. And this very same thing could possibly happen to Errol Spence if he's not careful and watch himself. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, if I was him, I would take the big fight with Crawford, you know, make the big money just in case. You don't know what anything will happen in boxing, people. And so sometimes you go in there thinking the fight is going to be an easy fight, and then you end up getting the biggest surprise of your life. Okay, so we'll see what happens. We're going to see how everything play out. But at the end of the day, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, I'm going to say it again. I said it before. I'll say it again. At this point in time, Errol Spence is the biggest ducker in boxing. Okay, he's the biggest ducker in boxing. He's ducking Terrence Crawford. People can say what they want, but that's what it is. He's ducking Terrence Crawford, and I think that the only way that we're going to see that fight is if we drag Errol Spence into the ring, kicking and screaming the whole way. Okay, he's going to be kicking and screaming the whole way. That's the only way we're going to get him in there, is to drag him in there with Terrence Crawford. Okay, and even if we was to drag him in there, he still probably wouldn't want to fight. So at the end of the day, people, we got to, you know, tell it like it is. It is what it is. Okay, and you know, this is what we're seeing. So, you know, we'll see how it plays out in the end, though. I mean, you know, stranger things have happened, you know. So we'll see how everything plays out. But for right now, I don't see this fight happening anytime soon. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think Errol Spence is going to fight Ugas if he gets the chance. If that fight is made, he's going to fight Ugas. And then, you know, people are going to say, oh, once he beats Ugas, the fight is going to be closer to Crawford. No. I totally disagree with that. What's going to happen? Let me tell you what's going to happen before, you know, and you remember you heard it here first. If Errol Spence fights and win against Ugas, he's going to say that he has all the 3 belts and now he's the undisputed champ. That's what he's going to say. He's going to say the same thing that Teofimo is saying. Okay, he's going to claim that because he got the 3 belts, he's a champ, he's the undisputed champ, and there's no need for him to fight Terrence Crawford, and he's not going to fight Terrence Crawford. This is what's going to happen. Okay, and how do I know that? Because, you know, I've heard Derek James came out and say that they want the 3 belts. Okay, he didn't say 4 belts, he said 3 belts. Okay, he said they want to get the 3 belts, and he said that Errol Spence's legacy does not depend on him fighting Terrence Crawford, and they want the 3 belts. He said that in the same breath. Okay, so that's telling you right there and then that once Errol Spence get that WBO belt, if he gets the belt, he'll be satisfied with that, and he will never fight Terrence Crawford. That will make the fight with Terrence Crawford even further away rather than closer, you know, as people might be thinking. Okay, that's the way I see that. Okay, because look, at the end of the day, look at what's going on at 154 pounds. Do you see Jermell Charlo saying that he wants to fight the winner of the Castano fight with Teixeira? I mean, he had the belt now for a good while. Did he call out Teixeira at the, you know, while he's had the 3 belts, the WBA, WBC, and the IBF? No. He's basically satisfied with those 3 belts, and he has no. I didn't see him calling anybody out. Okay, the only person I see him calling out is Floyd Mayweather. Okay, Floyd Mayweather is retired, so I don't know why. I made a video about that. Why are you calling out Floyd Mayweather? Okay, I mean, you know, at the end of the day. So now we see that Castano has called out Jermell Charlo. Let's see what happens with that. Let's see if we accept the call out and they fight. Okay, I mean, maybe, you know, I don't know. I'm not saying that Jermell Charlo is ducker. I wouldn't call Jermell Charlo a ducker. I'm not going to call him a ducker yet. Okay, I'm going to see how everything plays out. I don't just call people ducker. I don't just call people, you know, ducks unless I see them actually ducking. Okay, so you know, you don't have to call. If you don't call somebody out, that doesn't necessarily mean you're ducking them, because you calling somebody out or not calling them out doesn't mean that you're ducking them. It's when they call you out and you refuse to fight and make excuses. That's when you become a ducker, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not going to call Jermell Charlo a ducker, okay, because I haven't seen him duck anyone yet. Okay, now if he ducks this call out with Castano, okay, I'll make excuses about fighting Castano, then I'm going to start calling him a ducker. But for right now, I'm not going to call him a ducker. We're going to see how everything play out, okay? And so, you know, I don't just go around calling people duckers for no reason. I'm fair about this whole ducking thing. And like I said, I don't care who you are. If you're a duck, you're a duck. And so at the end of the day, I haven't seen him duck anyone, so I can't call him a ducker. But we're going to see, because we're hearing that Castano has called him out. And so we'll see if he's going to accept the call out and fight Castano, and then we'll see what happens with that. Like I said, maybe Crawford might move up and fight Castano himself, okay, and then he might call out Jermell Charlo. We don't know. I mean, there's a lot that could happen, you know, at junior middleweight, because, like I said, I don't really see much happening at welterweight. As long as Errol Spence is the champion at welterweight, we're not going to see any fights that we want to see, because Errol Spence don't really want to fight Terrence Crawford. And he's just basically holding up the division as far as I'm concerned, okay? And it is what it is. So, you know, he's doing basically the same thing that Manny Pacquiao was doing. He's holding the belt hostage. He's not fighting anybody. You know, he's not fighting the next champion, okay? And believe you me, when if he does get the belt from Ugas, he's not going to fight Crawford after that. So he's basically going to be there holding up undisputed at 147 pounds. So, again, Crawford probably have to move up to get a shot at undisputed at 154 pounds. So, but we'll see what happens. You know, right now, you know, as far as I'm concerned, like I said, Spence is holding the belt hostage. You know, he got those two belts and he's holding them hostage. Doesn't want to unify with Crawford. Doesn't want, you know, to go for undisputed. So it is what it is, people. So right now, I think, you know, I've talked enough about this whole thing. Okay, if anybody got any question to ask, I mean, you know, if they want. But at this point, I think I'm going to leave it, you know, right here. And, you know, I'll come back another time and we'll see, you know, if anything has changed in regards to this whole Errol Spence ducking situation, okay, and what else is going on. You know, we'll talk about something else besides Errol Spence at welterweight. And, you know, we'll see if anything happens with the Crawford-Porter fight. You know, at this point, I'm not that optimistic about that fight either, because, again, Porter is talking, but not activating the mandatory. So, I mean, you know, you can talk till his face turn blue, you know, but if you're not going to activate the mandatory, you're just wasting your time. So I don't understand what he's doing, okay, if he's not going to activate the mandatory. And he's talking about he wants $5 million. I mean, that's ridiculous. You know, you when you had a belt, when Porter had his belt, he fought Errol Spence for $2 million. He got $2 million guaranteed for that fight. Okay? And you had a belt. Okay? Now you got one more loss on your record, and you want $5 million from Crawford to fight for his belt. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you know, what are you talking about? I mean, your last fight, you made $1.2 million, but you don't want to take $2 million and a chance at winning a title. So I don't understand what this is all about. So, I mean, all these guys, you know, just out there talking, you know, and not really stepping up to the plate. And, you know, I don't see, you know, Porter as being any different in that respect. Maybe it's just these PBC guys. They just got the ducking virus. You know, I don't know what it is, but, you know, these guys don't want to step up to the plate and make the fight that people want to see. Okay. Not that I really care so much about the Porter Crawford fight. I'd rather see the Spence Crawford fight. But yeah, I wouldn't throw that fight out the door if it was to happen. I would watch it. You know, I'd buy that fight. Okay, it's a good fight. Okay, at the end of the day, I mean, there's nothing in it for Crawford because he's not going to win in the belt fighting Porter, but you know, he's not going to advance him any closer to undisputed. But it's still a good fight regardless. And so if Porter really wants to fight, and it's mostly the PBC fanboys and the LDBC fanboys who have been talking about that fight. So, you know, they're the one that brought this fight up, and, you know, in an attempt to get Crawford not to fight Errol Spence, they're pushing Porter in front of Crawford for him to fight Porter instead of fighting Errol Spence, talking about if he fight Porter, the Errol Spence fight, you know, the Errol Spence fight might be getting a little closer. I'm not buying that either, like I said, because if Crawford goes in and knocks out Porter, that's not going to make the Errol Spence fight any closer. It's going to make the Errol Spence fight even further away. So at the end of the day, people, I'm going to leave it there. You know, we've talked enough about this subject. This is TBE Boxing. I'm glad that you guys came by, you know, whoever is still here. Like and subscribe to the channel. Like or hate, or whatever you want to do. Thumbs up or thumbs down. I appreciate you being here. Thanks again for coming through, and I'll see you in the next one. This is TBE Boxing. I'm out.